high poly assets that were purchased from TurboSquid, and we wanted to have these run in a mobile application, an AR application, in fact. So what I needed to do was retopologize and retexture, and here we go. So at that time I was using 3D Studio Max 2016, and a lot of the tools there were starting to get pretty robust with doing some retopology. So what I started with was pretty much a box-like shape with some segmentation, and what I'm doing here is basically using the soft selection tool to basically just conform that shape to the asset. So basically adjusting soft selection, adjusting the weight control on it so I can basically select a couple vertices and just kind of adjust. And what I'm trying to do is overlap this new object on top of the purchased asset. That is, of course, a high poly model. Lots of detail, very good work there. And my job was to create a low poly version of this and still capture some of those details. Working symmetrically can save a lot of time. So there's a few times here where I cut the object in half. Once I start getting that retopologized model in place, I start to just refine a little bit more, getting closer to the object shapes, adding some cuts. The overall shape of the pedestal was pretty simplistic to get to. So I'm going over the shape a few more times, just refining, making sure the topology is nice and clean, straightening any edges, what have you. Trying to get as close as I can to the source model. There are a lot more robust retopology tools available in a lot of platforms now, but in general, something like this took me maybe a couple hours to retopologize. What I'm doing now is just isolating certain areas that needed to have retopology done individually. So I took one of the parts here, one of the details from the high poly source model, and now I'm starting with just some very simple box modeling with a subdivision. does take a little bit of time. And again, some retopology tools do facilitate what I'm trying to do here. And again, at the time, this was kind of the only option I really had. And again, doing this once and then multiplying it times 3 so I can quickly get these details in and not spend too much time. So spending the time just doing one of these and duplicating later. These are all tricks that you learn as you do modeling. You just start to realize that there's no point in doing the work multiple times, that sometimes parts are symmetrical, parts are similar. So whenever you can reuse and reiterate from that, it automatically saves time. So I knew this piece was going to be a little bit tricky, so I spent a little bit more time here just making sure that I'm capturing as much as I can with as little geometry as possible. Sometimes I start with a little bit more than I need. Sometimes I start with less. It really depends on the shape that I'm trying to go for. A rule of thumb, though, is generally it's easy to add geometry. It starts to get a little bit tricky when you want to remove geometry. So it's always good to start with something very low and just work your way up where you need the geometry, where you need that extra detail. Extruding some polygons in order to kind of get to that shape that I want, and then readjusting. So much of 3D modeling is this. But I was able to get around just what I needed, and again, giving a bit of a surface for the retopology to capture the high poly detail too. Again, I'm trying to be as efficient as I can with the poly count, but also trying to conform to the shape and the flow of the geometry of the asset that I'm working from. It's easy to get lost in the details, so it's good to kind of sometimes take a step back and see what is essential to have a surface. Doing the final wrap around here. I'm going to start extruding a little bit more edges. Once I got this shape pretty much, it's a matter of just cloning them. There we go, save some time. It's not about working faster, it's about working smarter. Now I'm onto the UV unwrapping, which is always fun. It's very much like a little puzzle, and if you enjoy doing puzzles, then you'll enjoy doing unwrapping. It's very rewarding once you understand the concepts behind it. Now I do some variations here, so I am trying some different alternatives, seeing what's unwrapping better. Each object has its own challenges with unwrapping. The trick, of course, is to try and hide as much of the seams that are going to be present. And it's just a matter of working with that UV space. kind of going in between trying some cylindrical UV unwrapping for certain parts. Again, trying to be as efficient as I can with my UV space, seeing where I can cram things closer together. While still retaining their texture fidelity. And with that texture, or with that checker pattern, just double checking to see that the texture quality is even. What I've also done is created UDIMs. So here I am in Substance Painter, and I have my 2 UDIM unwrapped. And so what I'm doing now here in Substance Painter is, in a sense, capturing from the high poly asset down to my low poly asset. And that allowed me to capture all that high poly detail that's now being seen on the texture. Generally, how I like to work in Substance Painter is to separate all the important details. Effects can be assigned to the textures now, so I'm adding a little bit of grime, some more detail. And again, with all of this unwrapped, Substance Painter makes adding these details really easy and fun. Those assets into Unity. I'm trying a little quick demo here. It's showing the asset running on my phone in AR. It's pretty decent performance at the time. Thanks for joining me for this little tour of an asset that I made a while ago.